very much for having our team taking over at this point of the program. My name is Isaac Fasima. I teach in the Department of Literature at Makerere University. And I'll be taking over this session. We will stand up for two anthems. We'll stand up for the Uganda National Anthem and for the Nigeria National Anthem. Then we will proceed from there on.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is an expression of nationalities. We shall allow about 15 seconds of applause after each anthem. After Uganda, then we shall have the Nigerian anthem. Uganda. Yes, that's the Uganda celebration. Now let's go to Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We thank you for coming back to this session of our Capstone Conference for the first cohort of our Rotary Peace Fellows at Makerere University. In the midst of us is Ambassador of Nigeria to Uganda, His Excellency Okar, and he's come along with the Senior Councillor, RC Yellow Duke, and the Second Secretary, Oblak Udumafi. Hope I pronounced those well. we're really grateful that you've taken time to be part of us, and we're truly, truly appreciative as Makerere, this Rotary Center, but also as Makerere University, that you could share the celebration of peace on the continent, but also at the continent's only Rotary Center, which is at Makerere University. So we are going to move on with our program. Fortunately, our time is really fast spent, but we'll have time for questions maybe after the next three presentations. We will have, and I'm going to request the following to please come up. Labantu Taylor from Nigeria and Sandy Dada from Nigeria. So Stephen Sembane will be joining us virtually, and Stephen is from Uganda. He's going to be presenting his research and his social initiative online, so he will join us later on. Labantu Taylor is going to present a work titled Empowering Women as Key Partners in Building Peaceful and Resilient Communities in Cross-Border Areas in the Mano River Union. And Stephen Sembane will present a project titled Handholding Initiatives, Strategic Planning to Improve Education Outcomes Among Pupils from Remote Islands of Kalambala District in Uganda. And then Sandy Dada is going to present on kick-out cultism from our schools. In this order, Labantu Taylor from Nigeria, and then Stephen Sembane from Uganda, and then we will close with Sandy Dada. I welcome Labantu to please make your presentation. Thank you very much.
Liberia, Guinea, and Liberia, Ivory Coast. There are challenges there. And some of these challenges that the border face are cross-border illicit activities, proliferation of small arms and weapons, the lack of harmonization and enforcement of implementation of agreed principles, that is, principles that were agreed upon at those border points, they are not taking it into considerations. We have protocols and conventions by member nations, harassment and extortion by especially security personnel, weak government accountability, poor infrastructure, youth marginalization, violence, drug trafficking, and organized crime. However, to look at these challenges, I drew my attention to engaging women in the cross-border area for implementation. Objective. The objective of my SCI was to empower women as key partners in building peace and resilient communities in border communities in the Mano River Basin, which is Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, while improving mechanisms for inclusive dialogue platforms, perspective of the peace, security, cross-border trade, and reconciliation of all citizens in the trans-border communities. Targeted group. My primary group was women, including women traders who are key at the borders, women leaders in key border areas, female journalists, inclusive of people with specific needs. Secondary targeted groups were border security personnel, immigration, police, military, and customs, traditional leaders, local authorities, bike riders, and local people. These were the people that are targeted. Activities. My activities were June to first doing community entrance, where I first went at the Sierra Leone Liberian border, had a meeting with the immigration there, the local authorities, community radio, meaning the Maonet women radio station. I had a meeting with them first, giving them, showing them my project design, and explaining to them my SCI, and they welcome my SCI. But due to funding, I was only able to do the Sierra Leone Liberian border. Activities that they included cross-border peace, security, and trade meetings and workshops, where I was able to train with my colleagues. We were able to train peace, and we were able to train security and community leaders on the 8 pillars of positive peace. We trained them on peace and conflict resolution. We trained them on conflict mitigation. We also trained cross-border. We also had cross-border community dialogue, where we had dialogue with the community involving the youth, the elderly, the people with disabilities. From that photo, you can see we have women traders there. I have security there. I have youth that were part of that dialogue. And lastly, I had capacity building training with community radio journalists, where I trained the community radio journalists in doing peace journalism, peace reporting. As my colleague said yesterday, in Africa, let's say the world as a whole, what journalists really look for are stories that bleeds. Because we have a saying that if the story don't bleed, it doesn't lead. But I was able to train those journalists with the help of my colleagues that accompany me. We're able to train those journalists in reporting human interest stories, in reporting peace stories. We did some jingles, and most especially we dramatized the 8 pillars of positive peace that is now being played on the community radio station at the Sierra Leone Liberian border. That jingle is played every day, and I personally is funding that initiative. Outcomes. Security and traders understood conflict resolution. That is, after the training, They were able to understand the importance of conflict resolution, violent extremism, non-conflict management, networking for peace, as well as how to partnership and collaborate with women around conflict prevention and early warning signals. They also learn how to identify their common interests in maintaining a secure border, channels for reporting and addressing problems. The security personnel and women traders groups understood public discussion about conflict resolution and new approaches to problem solving that will reduce intergroup tensions. Community radio journalists can now act as vectors of peace. As I said, we now have jingles on the community radio station. The reporters are there reporting human interest story relating to peace, promoting peace in the community, while also making use of their popularity to reach those sectors of the population not directly participating in project activities. The project, due to funding, were not able to cover the entire border, because at the border they have different towns. But from the training and from using the medium, the radio station, because the community radio station it goes across the border, they use that medium to reach across to other communities with their peace messages, peace jingles on air. Inputs. Time and efforts were voluntarily given to this project by journalists, women traders, because as I said earlier, I didn't get any fund from anywhere. So the journalists and the women traders, they were able to help me without a dime. Key stakeholders and security personnel funds used were directly generated from my own income, as I said earlier, as getting donor support from the other organization was effortless. Specifics. Under specific, I have improving the role of women as peace builders in targeted communities. That was one of my specifics. Mobilizing media outlets in border communities to contribute to intergroup understanding and conflict resolution. Strengthening mechanisms for community and problem solving among key actors living in border communities for conflict prevention. Impact. After all the activities, the impact I got was women, youth, securities, journalists. They are now able to tell that story about conflict in the region. Because first, it was not like that, and I can say that I am happy that I did this initiative, because according to them, it was the first of its kind at the border. The project has also given women the platform to speak out on issues affecting them and ways of resolving them. This impact is mainly directed to women traders. Most of the time, they complain that while trading at the border, both the Sierra Leone and Liberian border, the customs really give them hard time. And because they are afraid to speak out, they facing problem in getting their goods across from one country to another. But through this intervention, because we deal with both customs from Sierra Leone and Liberia border, they are now given a platform to speak out on issues that affect them. Generally also gain knowledge in conflict transformation and are now serving as peace ambassadors in the region. That is the Sierra Leone region. And for sustainability, I want to say personally that for sustainability, I had an idea to put up, let's say to put up a local NGO that I wanted to surprise my mentor, Dr. William. I was able to establish a local NGO to enable me carry out this project, because in Liberia to get funding as a single person to carry on a project is very difficult. So the idea came to mind. I was able to establish a local NGO by the name of Women Network for Peace and Development that I have registered, and I now have a project proposal on the desk of UN Women to continue my SCI. And in this line, I want to tell Dr. William, thanks for your mentorship. Professor Grace, I want to say thank also, and I also want to say a very big thank you to my host counselor. She's online watching, Honorable Lydia Bajara. I want to say thank you so much for always checking on me, for always pressing me to do more. And also to my, can I say ambassador or honorable counsel, thank you so much for coming. And to Dr. Helen, my organization that I have established, I'm pleading to you, as I did incorporate 3 other persons to work with me, a lawyer, a retiring from the district that sponsored me, and a colleague from the communication area. I want to plead to Rotary Peace Center that if I do get funding to continue my SCI, even though I will be using my local NGO, but I'm pleading to Title Heading that I will always use the logo of Makerere University and the Rotary Peace Center, because I really want to continue my SCI at the other 2 borders. What we did there, in collaboration with my friends, people were so happy, but there was no funding to continue. And they still asked for more training, because one training cannot do anything. They need mentorship and other things, especially for the journalists. So I pray that it comes out well and that my SCI will be implemented. Thank you for your listening ears.
Wow, let us appreciate Taylor one more time. I love the fact that the social change initiatives are giving birth to other sustainable projects that will transform our communities. Thank you for taking time to engage with the community in Liberia and for empowering women to participate in peace building. Appreciate Taylor for me one more time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have seen in front we have added another speaker. We said for purposes of getting the audience physically engaged, we requested that we shift the online presenter to come after the physical audience here. So with us, in addition, we have Olusina Ajayo from Nigeria. He'll be speaking to us after our brother Sunny Dada does that. So I want to invite Sunny now to come speak to us about kicking out cultism from our schools. We are so much eager. Can just give introductory remarks as.
Thank you. Thank you. I know that protocols have been established, but I don't know how I'll go back to my country if I don't specially recognize the presence of my ambassador. Because if I run into trouble while I'm here, he's the first person I should be calling to come to my rescue. And I don't know how I'll be calling him to come to my rescue if I don't appreciate his presence. Thank you, sir, for coming. All right. Like the speaker said, I'll be talking about cultism, our initiative back home in addressing the issues of cultism. The issue of cultism is very broad. It is one of the conflict drivers of insecurity in Nigeria. Just so I know that a lot of you are maybe aware of the challenges in the country, the insecurity challenges in the country. Just to give you a background, the insecurity challenges in the country is driven by a lot of several conflict drivers. First, we started with the unrest in the Niger Delta, which was addressed with the introduction of amnesty in 2009. And from there was a consolidation of that effort. And while the insecurity or the youth restiveness in the region were addressed using the amnesty initiative, the next round of insecurity challenge that we saw started in the Northeast. From the Northeast, issues of terrorism and all of that, we saw a shift to the Northwest in the form of banditry. And so we are fighting a multi-pronged war, from terrorism to banditry, from the Northwest to the Southeast, which has to do with succession and so many other things. And while we look at addressing these issues from basically three major fronts, that is militarily, politically, and strategically, it's also important that as non-state actors, we come in and see how we can support the government by addressing the challenges. And out of these three major approaches, one of the area that as non-state actors we can really come in or fit in very well is the area of a strategic approach, strategic engagement. And that is the area that the Social Change Initiative is looking at. Now, cultism generally is a bigger challenge in the Niger Delta, while in other parts of the region you can talk of banditry or terrorism. When you look at the Niger Delta is made up of 6 states. It is politically known as the South-South region of the country. But it is more popular with the name Niger Delta. So when you look at the Niger Delta, you may say that there is a relative peace, but the peace in peace building terms can be described as negative peace. And because it is a negative peace, it is expected that we'll continue to do our best to ensure that we transform that negative peace to positive peace. So we decided to address the issue of cultism, which is a strong conflict driver in the region, but this time around focusing on River State. Because the conflict in the Niger Delta actually started from River State, and from there it spread to other parts of the region. And it is our understanding that if we're able to address the challenge in River State, which is like a springboard to other states, we'll be able to address the challenges in the region once and for all. So initially, the plan was a two-phased social change initiative. The first phase, which was what I did after I left Kampala last year, is to look at strategic engagements with youths who are the major players or drivers in the challenge of cultism. It is our thinking that if we're able to get the youths as targets, as target stakeholders, we can be able to address the larger challenge of cultism. So in engaging the youths, I decided that the best place to start is to look at students first. So the target is to look at students from secondary schools, primary schools, then from there we scale it up to universities. And that was basically what we did. The second phase of the social change initiative is the building or the siting of a community radio station in some strategic communities in River State. And the community radio station will be basically dedicated to addressing the issue of peace building and community development and issues of social cohesion and all of that. Now, that is very broad. We came up with this lofty proposal because we thought that we'll be able to gather or get all the funding we'll be needing to do all of that. But by the time we mobilized to field, doing baseline studies and all of that, we discovered that we need to eat the meat gradually, take it one after the other. And so because of that, we decided to limit ourselves to only the first phase. And that first phase is what I'll be talking to us about this morning. What you see displayed on the screen is a summary of the activities that were carried out, a total of 3 activities. A number of activities that we lined up initially, but we had to scale down because of challenge of funding. So we scaled down to 3 key activities that we think that will really give us the results, that we are looking for. And we looked at peace campaigns, we looked at strategic peace building, engaging young minds, and we also looked at social media campaign. So this is just a summary of the activities that were done. Some of them you are seeing the flyers, some of them you're seeing pictures, strategic pictures, and all of that. Now, before I go into the activity proper, I'd like to talk to us about the funding sources. It's key so that as we go into it, because some of the pictures you see, you understand why we have, some of those pictures. Because of the funding challenge, my church was ready from the beginning to support me, but I didn't want to bring them in because of one reason. I know that when it comes to religion, Rotary is very, very sensitive. And I know that if the church is offering to support me, there could be 1 or 2 elements of bargain from the end of the church. And so because of these sensitivities, I initially didn't accept the support. And my church also proposed that I expand the scope of the SCI from just looking at students, to community youths, because the churches are based in communities, and the issue of cultism is very, very strong within the communities. So it is the thinking of the church that we should also bring on board these youths, So, and doing that, I didn't have the time to go into such proposal, because I know that it is very broad, because I will have to do community entry activities, I will have to commence the engagement of community gatekeepers and all of that, and I didn't have the time to do all of that. So because of that, I initially didn't accept the support. But while I waited and the funding did not come, I eventually went back to my church and we sat down to have a conversation where we had to negotiate the terms of support and all of that. So eventually I accepted the funding, and we started the activities proper. I've laid the background. The abstract is supposed to do all of that, but I've just laid the background. I've already told you the theme of the name of the social change initiative, which is Kick Out Cultism from schools and all of that. The objectives are there to create a safe school space, to increase productivity of students, and ultimately to raise young peace builders. It is our thinking that after they benefit from the training, they will go back to their various communities and scale up, the training. I've already given you the background. I've also mentioned the problem statement, but there is a key component of the problem statement. And what is that key component? In 1999, when we transited from military regime to democracy, because of the challenges of marginalization and the agitations coming out from the Niger Delta, the government proposed an economic solution to address the challenges of marginalization. And what is the proposal? To increase derivation to states, to oil-producing states, where these agitations are coming from. That derivation is known as 13% derivation policy, meaning giving more money to these states, not just to go and eat, but to address the challenges, that comes with development, where we have needs for water, we have needs for basic health services and all of that, so that this extra 13% can be able to address all of that, road networks and all of that. So government introduced this principle, which was welcomed by stakeholders across the region and even the country, and to a large extent it worked. It addressed the marginalizations to a large extent. But over time, due to maybe corruption in the management of derivation funds, and because over time, citizens, indigents of communities over time have shifted their expectations from government to international oil companies operating in these communities, and when this derivation money came in, Probably youth felt that it didn't trickle down to them and all of that in the manner they expected. So because of that, youth decided to adopt violence as a means of communication, as a means to drive home their point. So with these agitations and with these challenges in translating derivation funds into concrete development, we started seeing international companies started to adopt, self-help approaches, self-help mechanisms, to be able to prevent kidnap of their staff and all of that. And what did they do? They started giving out contracts to some of these violent youth leaders, just to calm them down so that they will not kidnap their expatriate staff and all of that. And the government also in response started giving out pipeline surveillance contracts, to these youth groups. So with more money coming in, what happened? A lot of these groups, were able to buy more arms for themselves because they now saw it as a business. From there, people who, an agitation that was seen as a genuine agitation, over time evolved. And from that process, conflict entrepreneurs came up and all of that. Now, when these things started happening, in Rivers State in particular, we now saw the evolution of these groups into what is now known as cult groups in Rivers State in particular. The cult groups we see that we are trying to address today actually evolved from these violent groups and all of that. So in Rivers State, when the groups evolved to cult groups, what happened? The issue of conflict became complicated. Why? Because at that point, the focus was now on territorial gains. So you have cult groups partitioning the states to themselves. We're in charge of this area. This group is in charge of this area. This group is in charge of this area and all of that. So it became a major challenge. What you see there is a summary of the traditional cultism landscape in schools. Now, this is very, very general. I know that even this is beyond Nigeria because in doing this activity, I did a lot of research and I discovered that it is even beyond, Nigeria. But I did, from my baseline study, I was able to narrow it down. So this is the objective of the SCI, which I already mentioned, the goals to increase the productivity of young students, raise generation of teenagers that will gain knowledge in peace building so that they will now go back to their communities to scale it down, excuse me, and all of that. Now, while I went to the field to do a baseline study, although that wasn't the first time I was doing that baseline study because in my work, I work with communities a lot as a result of my work in peace building and journalism. So most times I'm in the communities. And because I was also involved in the amnesty program, I had an opportunity to go to the creeks, to have a direct engagement with some of these non-state actors. So I knew the relational lines. So I was able to map the relational lines. So the relational lines is what you see there. You may not understand it. You have cultists, you have youth violence, you have youths, you have government, you have politicians, and you have security agencies. A group that is missing there is the IOCs, the international oil companies, because they are also very important stakeholders when you talk about the issues, the insecurity challenges in the Niger Delta. The lines you see there, the arrows you see there, represent the relationships each of these groups have with each other. Any line you see that is broken means that there is a broken relationship, between all the groups. There is no time for me to explain all of that, but I am thinking that it is simple. Some arrows are thicker than some. You see youths and cultists, for instance, 2 arrows, 2-way arrows and all of that, showing that there is a strong relationship between youths and cultism. As a matter of fact, who are the cultists? Youths. Then you also have 2 strong arrows linking cultists to youth violence because they are the ones that perpetrate the violence, so there is a strong relationship. Then you also have arrows from politicians to youths, arrows from politicians to cultists, arrows from politicians to youth violence, and all of that. I'm sure you can explain the relationship. My ambassador is here. I have to be careful. You have arrows from politicians to government, arrows from politicians to security agencies, and and all of that. So this is relational mapping, influence mapping, that really tells us how the conflict is very, very complicated, and all of that. The challenges I already mentioned, funding challenges, but there are mitigation strategies. One of the mitigation strategy was that I brought in my church. The second mitigation strategy was that I decided to convert some of the initially planned activities to virtual activities. You know, a lot of us have spoken about the benefits of COVID. Converting in-person activities to virtual activities is one major benefit that COVID came with. So the roundtables, we did 2 roundtables on cultism. The roundtables we did were all virtual, and I was lucky to have friends in the industry whom I also brought on board to speak as facilitators. 2 of them are Peace Fellows here. One of them was supposed to be here, he didn't come, Hussein Asanga. The other one will be in cohort 4, Olani. So they are my friends, and I brought them on board, and we conducted those round tables. Now, this is the landscape. Rival cult groups, politicians, I don't know if it is very clear there. Security agencies, IOCs are represented here. This is the general landscape. The last one you saw was the relational lines, vigilante groups, traditional groups. This is a core representation of stakeholder communities in the Niger Delta. Before you enter into any Niger Delta community to do any peace building project, you must engage with these gatekeepers. Because if they don't give you the chance, you can't enter their community to do any project. So this is the landscape. How did we collect data? How did we get information that informed the activities and the objectives we arrived at? Because of my work, my previous work, I already had data. I already knew the challenges. I already knew what I wanted, so data was already there. But I also did literature review. I went back to some of the amnesty documents, you know, and I read them through, and I looked at some of the approaches and strategies that were deployed then. So I did a lot of reading, going back to those documents and all of that. Then in May and June, I was in most communities in the Niger Delta. I used that opportunity to conduct key informant interviews. I also did IDI engagements, that is direct interview with, you know, cultists, you know, major cultists and all of that, whose names I will not mention here, and whose pictures I will also not display for security reasons. And it was on that commitment they granted me the interview they did. So a lot of these approaches gave me the data to arrive at the result of this baseline study you're seeing. Now, that is the conflict tree. When I came back, I sat down using the data I got from the field, and going back to the reports, I was able to, I used the conflict tree to analyze the challenge. And you're seeing there, let's start from the root causes. Of course, these are the latent factors that actually gave rise to the challenge of cultism. By the time we look at the theory of change that I adopted, we'll understand all of this better. You know, for the root causes, I used the strain theory to understand what these root causes are. That theory states that when youths don't get the things, the social the things they need that has to do with their social well-being, of course it is normal that they will resort to self-help. It is normal that they will give in to crime. It is normal that they will adopt approaches that may be offensive, you know, to societal values and all of that. So using that theory and, you know, applying it to the data I came back with, I was able to, you know, draw up these latent factors. Conflict incentives. I like to talk about conflict incentives. I don't know if I have time. I noticed that some people I spoke to, some students I spoke to, you know, when I asked them about their role models, most of them pointed out people, known cultists, people that we know that in communities, they are strong conflict entrepreneurs or high facilitators of peace. You know, such people were referenced as role models. Why? Because these people over time, because of the money they have made from conflict, are now providing social services in communities. They now provide a community generator that provides power from 7 p.m. till morning. They do activities, peace initiatives, not peace campaigns, peace initiatives. That is, they organize community cultural activities, sports, engagements, and all that. So these people have become role models. So people now look up to them. But in actual sense, these are conflict entrepreneurs. So it means that there is an incentive to go into conflict. So when you look at such role models, you want to be like them, meaning you also would like to do the things they do. So we need to really address the challenge of conflict incentive. I've already started. I'm trying to build all of this into a policy document. The plan is, as I go back, I will use this policy document to engage, policy makers, so that they will also see these are findings from the field. There are other factors: political corruption, disruption of academic calendar. Many times we have unions going on strike, which affect the academic calendar. I mean, academic unions, university unions going on strike and all of that. So sometimes this strike, used to take long time. For a 4-year degree program, I spent 6 years because of strike, because you will have to stay in the house. You have to think of how you can do some other things while you wait for them to call off the strike and all of that. So during this process, they are recruited into things, ordinarily they shouldn't be recruited into. Then there is poverty, there is unemployment, and all of that. Then what are the effects as we have it showing in the form of leaves and all of that? Death, school dropouts, and so many other things: armed robbery, kidnapping, low academic performance, and all. As a matter of fact, all these activities we see, kidnapping, sexual violence, gender-based violence, and all of that, they share a nexus with cultism. Drug abuse and all that, they share a nexus with cultism. They are products. So this is the conflict map. Then, like I told you, we did a structural peace campaigns, technical training for youth ambassadors. For the training, I concentrated on 2 aspects, which is very, very key: honoring dignity. Under honoring dignity, I looked at identity, because I also noticed that a lot of them suffer from identity crisis. So we looked at identity. We addressed the issue of the challenge of identity crisis. So it was, then we also looked at peaceful coexistence, because of the cultural element I noticed. From the field. These are some of the pictures of the online roundtables. I talked about Hussein, that ought to be here, that is not here. I also talked about Olani, that will be coming here September, who is also a member of the 4th cohort. These are friends that we do a lot of things with in communities. They are all peace builders. I already talked about the change theory, the social disorganization theory, which is the general theory, which highlighted the general challenges as we saw them on the conflict tree. Then I talked about the strain theory, which was specific to the latent, factors. Then the culture conflict theory. The culture conflict theory opened my eyes to the cultural dimension, because I noticed that some of the cult groups are affiliated to certain tribes. Some of the cult groups are affiliated to certain tribes, and these are the things that makes the conflict, complicated. I have recommendations, and one of it is that there is need to focus on the fundamentals of youth transition, which is education, value-based system, strong family value systems, strong societal value systems, but it has to start from the family. From the family, it will be cascaded to communities, from there to the larger society, and all of that. There is also an urgent need to address this thing that always push unions into strike, that will eventually alter the academic calendar. there is an urgent need to address it. Structural peace education should be introduced in our school curriculum. It's very, very key. I was able to get support from the Youth Friendly Center of the University of Port Harcourt, and they have a program of activities for youth, for students in tertiary institutions, and I have already suggested this to them, that there is a need to include structural peace education. Then we also need to counter conflict incentives. So if these students are looking at conflict entrepreneurs as role models, then we also need to look for what we can use to counter those incentives that they see that attracts them in the lives of those people. We also need to raise role models to serve as community influencers. We should stop allowing conflict entrepreneurs to serve as influencers in our communities, and this speaks beyond Rivers State. Then Rotary has to come in here. I work with my district. I work as the person in charge of the technical, like the technical partner in charge of in the Rotary District Peace Fellowship Committee. I worked with the last chairperson, and presently I'm working with the incumbent chairperson. As a matter of fact, I have like 21 applications pending on my neck that I must review between now and May 1st, to send back to them and all of that. So these are recommendations I've given them, which I'm also giving to us. There is need for Rotary to be deliberate. I was happy when Rotarian Yinka told us yesterday, the past Vice President of Rotary International, when he told us that the least funding request Rotary gets is in the area of peace building. One of the Rotary clubs I approached with my proposal backed out because they felt that the budget was too big. And how much was the budget? £18,000. Why? Because there is the community radio element, in that proposal. And they backed out because they said the budget was too big. But it's a proposal. Rotary can establish what I call peace and development radio in communities. You can adopt that as your project. A radio that will be committed to only peace building programming, social cohesion programming, development programming, no other thing. In communities. Programming that has to do with accountability and all of that. So Rotary can do that. Rotary can fund that. If it is too much for a club, the district can come together. If it is too much for the district, you can collaborate with other districts, and do all of that. Rotary Yinka told us yesterday about how we can get international grants to do all of that. Then, in addition, Rotary should also be strategic enough to think of means, to support social change initiatives. It wasn't funny for us to go look for funding to do these projects, the times that we ought to have invested in implementing the project, we invested those times in seeking for funding and all of that. And nobody gives you free money. Anybody that gives you money will give you terms of conditions. And sometimes those terms of conditions are far away from the objectives of the social change initiative. And that is a challenge of peace building in Africa, because a lot of our funding comes from international development agencies who also come with their templates and tell you this is how you're going to do it. So a conflict that has lasted for 50 years, they come with small money and they want you to settle that conflict in 1 year or 2 years. And you accept it. So because they come, so nobody will give you free money. They come with conditions. So Rotary should think of an initiative on how they can support social change initiative. We have done that, but cohort 2 is waiting, cohort 3 is waiting. So we're making this advocacy on behalf of these cohorts so that they don't go through what we went through. Rotary districts and all, I've said all of that. Sustainability plan. The good news is this. My church has adopted the peace campaign as a monthly activity. Every third Saturday of the month, they said they are going to be doing this peace campaign. Then there is a Sunday they call Family Sunday. I think the last Sunday. Every Family Sunday, they have decided to also dedicate 10 minutes of their time to talk about cultism. to talk to parents, to be more responsible and all of that. And I've also given them my commitment that I will try as much as I can to be available to deliver those talks. So that is a sustainability. It means that even if I pull out, these things will continue. Then continuous training of youth peace builders, which is what I am doing even before the social change initiative. It is what I do. I go to communities, I train journalists, I train youths, young people, and all of that in peace journalism and all of that. The outcomes are already there, but there are shorter outcomes and long-term outcomes. One of my fellows talked about how, I think it was Catherine, how the time was too short for her to go back to the field to measure impact and all of that. It is true. Some of these interventions, you may only see the impact 10 years later or 20 years later. But there are also immediate outcomes or immediate impact or unintended outcomes. The ones I've seen so far is that there is now an increased awareness on the dangers of cultism, especially in the 2 communities and in the 2 schools where we did this. And even within the church, there is now, a strong awareness, because when parents saw the conflict tree, they were alarmed. They were really, in fact, somebody snapped the conflict tree and said he was going to show it to his son in the house. So the collaborative response against cultism has been achieved too. There is now a collaborative response, and we have teenagers who are very, very interested in this peace building thing, because the plan is, we have already set in motion, we want to form peace clubs in these schools, and we want to use these teenagers to drive the process. So I'm going to be ending here. If there are questions, I will also be available to take them. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sunny. I didn't know Sunny went to church. These things alert you to many things, eh? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sunny. I'm going to request Olushina to come and make his presentation. And Olushina's presentation is entitled Youth for Peace in one of the schools in Abuja. You're welcome. Thank you. We're going to have questions after all the presentations. And so if you have any question, you could write it down and just forward it either to me or to my co-master of ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Olushina Hajao. I'm also from Nigeria, and I'm happy to be here. I also want to see this privilege to acknowledge the presence of my ambassador, His Excellency, Nigeria Ambassador to Uganda. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Her Excellency, Liberia Ambassador to Uganda. You are welcome, sir and ma. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My social change initiative is on Youth for Peace. It's on Youth for Peace. My colleague just spoke about youth. Why focusing on youth? We know that Rotary International has 3 main focuses. That is the youth, the people with disability, and women. So I decided to go into into youth, because youth play major role when it comes to peace building. As we all know, youth are the victims of conflict. They are also the actors of conflict, and they need to also be engaged to become agents of peace building and peacemaking. So that's why I decided to focus this SCI on youth. And I also adopted a school. My colleague also talked about students. I also focus on students because education also plays a key role when it comes to peace building. Is a key to building peace in the society. So let me go straight to the initiative. the alarming rate of conflict in Africa has become very worrisome, not only in Africa, the world over. From Nigeria to Mali, from Sudan, South Sudan to Central Africa, you see conflict all over. Presently, Ukraine conflict also. So all over the world, several countries are facing conflicts. Conflict has remained a constant threat to human progress and sustainable development. Conflict has remained a constant threat to human progress and sustainable development. And as a result of conflict all over the world, the youth especially, they are facing several challenges. They are facing several consequences of conflict. Many of them have become, as I said before, they are the victims of conflict. They have become, they have been killed. Some have lost livelihood. They are out of schools. Some have become agents to criminals and the rest. So conflict has really had serious consequences on the youth. And that's why I decided to go into Youth for Peace. And according to the UNICEF Constitution, it says that since the war began in the mind of man, it is also in the mind of man that the foundation for peace must be constructed. So that's why we need to address the issue of conflict from the mind of the people. So also, according to one of the young activists, that's Malala Yousafzai, a United Nations ambassador, she said that if you want peace, you work for justice. If you want justice, you work for peace. But one thing cut across all of them. If you want peace and justice, then you must work for education. So that's why it's critical to take peace building to the schools, to our schools. And that's why I selected one of the schools in the FCT, the Federal Capital, Nigeria, as a pilot project. It's a pilot project. I call it a pilot project because I know it can still be expanded if there are funds and support from different organizations. So peace education is very critical in peace building. Therefore, awareness and respect for human rights are essential for promoting peace. According to some research, we have discovered that more than 400 million young people have been between the age of 15 and 29 live in fragile and conflict-affected contexts. The implication of this is that more than 400 young people are experiencing violence, they face exploitation, miss out of education, and even struggle to survive. So you can see why it is very important to go to the young learners, to go to the young mind, to instill, to learn, to train them and raise peace builders among the young people. Why youth? I've just explained why youth. Why youth? Why do you have to go to youth? Despite many challenges, young people have shown to have the ability to play active role, particularly at the grassroots, at the local level, as peace builders, mediators, and peacemakers. So that's why we have to go to the young people and reach out to them, because if you have a generation of youth that are conscious of peace, we'll be able to have a peaceful society, we'll be able to have a peaceful world. One of the 5 pillars of UN Youth Peace and Security Agenda is also focusing on youth. That is the involvement of youth in peace building, conflict prevention, conflict resolution, violence prevention, and the rest. So, however, many of our youth today, they are ignorant of these great potentials that they have. Some are ill-equipped, and therefore they are unproductive. We see youths, just wasting away their time. They don't know the potential that they have. They don't know that they can be the vital, agent of peace in the society. And you see them lamenting and complaining and joining the bad wagons in the society. So many of our youth are ignorant of this, and that's why the training is very important to be carried out among the youth. Youth are one of the most vital resources of any nation. However, there is a wide gap between the enormous potential of the youth and the development level in Africa. You see, Africa is still struggling to develop, despite great talent that we have around, despite the numbers of youth in Africa, despite the great potential they have. Africa is still is still struggling to develop. There is a wide gap between these potentials of the youth and the development level in Africa. And that's why we need to go to the school. We need to go to the young people to bring the message of peace, to bring the message of development to them, so that they can have that consciousness to be able to become better tomorrow. So we're talking about, there are many countries in Africa that are currently facing or confronting different forms of violence. Several attempts have been made to find lasting solutions, but have yielded little or no results. So that is why we decided to go to the schools. Implication of these violent challenges that the youth are facing. As a result of challenges confronting some of our young learners today, most of them are prone to grievance, poor academic performance, low human capital. Let's talk about that. Low human capital, violent conflict, crime, drug abuse, prostitution, human trafficking, and several other vices in the society because of some of the things they are facing. So they can easily be lured into some of these vices in the society because of violence around us, because of disconnect between the government and the youth. The youth become idle, the youth become dissatisfied with their situation, and they can easily be lured into conflict or into all the other vices in the society. Young people are often be excluded from peace-building processes. That is even very disheartening, that young people are often excluded from peace-building processes because of a perceived lack of experience or qualification. You think, oh, these ones are too young, they are not needed. Whereas their exclusion has been, their exclusion prevents us from tapping, from benefiting from the potential, the unique skill and capability that they have. So young people need to be engaged when it comes to peace building in order to have a peaceful world. So the aim of this social change initiative is to equip the young and raise them to become active actors in building positive peace and a sustainable society. You can see the picture here. This is one of the schools in Nigeria that has now become a home to the forcefully displaced people as a result of violent conflict, especially this is at the northern Nigeria. You can see now, this will bring a distortion of academic calendar to the people around the community, even the people that are here as a refugee now. They won't also be able to go to school. You can see majority of them are young people. They will not be able to go to school. Their means of livelihood has been cut short. The host community will also suffer. The student in this host community will not be able to go to school. You can imagine what will now be going on in such a community. They can easily become agents of violence, crimes, drug abuse, prostitution, and the rest. So the goal of this social change initiative, as I said earlier on, is to help reorientate, empower, and engage young youth as agents of peace and development in our society. There are some specific objectives, apart from the general goal. I have some specific objectives for this social change initiative. And one is to bring about positive attitudinal change, progressive thinking, and perception among the youth and students. Bringing about positive attitudinal change, progressive thinking, and perception among the youth. Because you discover one of the causes of conflict in the society is a wrong perception. When you have a wrong perception about your neighbor, you can trigger up conflict. So, and Nigeria is a multi-ethnic nation. We have over 250 ethnic groups. So you can imagine when, like, maybe in a school that you have like 10 different ethnic groups, everybody have wrong perception about each other, it can lead to conflict. So we want to bring about positive attitudinal change and progressive thinking and perception among the youth. So in order to reduce the level of conflict in our society. Another specific objective is to promote awareness of the cause of violent conflict and provide conflict prevention skill. Yesterday when Charlie was taking us through positive peace, he made mention of the economic cost of war, economic cost of violence. When people are aware of the cost of war, when people are aware of the cost of violence, they will think twice before they dabble into any action or reaction that will lead to violence in the society, because it is very costly. You can imagine what is happening in Ukraine right now. You can imagine the cost that the war has caused, not only Ukraine, but the entire world. My colleague was talking yesterday that a bread that used to be sold for $1 has now become $2 in our country, and it has caused a major, crisis in that community, because it is because the wheat that they are being used to produce bread come from this region that are having conflict. So it affects the entire world. Europe also, the UK now is now planning they are planning with Rwanda to send the refugee from UK to Rwanda, and it's also another source of crisis. So there is an economic cost of war. There is a cost you pay when you go into violent conflict. So the youth also need to be aware that whenever they go into violent conflict, there is a cost they are going to pay for it. So to bring awareness to the cost of violence. Another specific objective of this initiative is to enable the youth to be more actively engaged in peace building process. Last but not the least, to increase human capital development. When they are empowered and they are actively engaged in something productive, they will not be able to think about conflict. So some of the challenges of this social change initiative, just like many of my colleagues that spoken earlier on have said, there are a lot of challenges confronted in carrying out this social change initiative. And especially on my own list here, I have COVID-19 situation. Because of the COVID situation, the social change initiative have to be readjusted because the initial plan I have is to do this initiative in 3 schools in Nigeria. 2 at the IDP camp and 1 at the public place. But because of the COVID situation and other challenges, I have to restrict myself to 1 school. Another challenge faced, which everybody have talked about, I will not need to really overemphasize it, is the issue of funding. Funding. I have to rely on my personal income to be able to fund this project. I reach out to a group of, a set of organizations, and also to some Rotary Club around, and they promised to get back to me. But there's a time frame for this project. And if I continue to wait for they are getting back to me, I will not be able to meet up with the time frame. So I have to look for alternative by using my own resources to commence the project. Until I finish the project, I will not be able to hear from them. I hope maybe when I get back to Nigeria, I'll be able to hear from them. So the issue of funding has been a major challenge. Then, those are the 2 major challenges apart from other challenges. Notwithstanding, the project was generally a success and recorded great accomplishment. There are some theoretical framework that back up this project. I made use of the need theory and the need theory, just like my colleague that spoken earlier before me said, the need theory revealed that deep-rooted conflicts are raised by the denial of one or more basic needs, human needs, such as security, identity, good education, employment, and recognition. So when people are facing need, it can trigger them to go into conflict. In analyzing conflict, one must be able to distinguish between interest, values, and needs. Interest can be negotiated within a short time, while values can change over a long time. But the human need cannot be negotiated under any circumstances. So it's very important and very critical to pay importance to the needs of the people in the society. So I also make use of theory of change, which simply describe that what are the changes that you intend to see by applying or by carrying out this project among this set of people. So it just explained to us the changes that was expected to see after the project. Education, empowerment through skill acquisition, recognition as some of the important needs of the youth in the society. Let me take that again. Education, empowerment through skill acquisition, and recognitions as some of the important needs of the youth in our society. For young people to actualize their dream and aspiration in life, the basic need must be provided by the society in which they exist. So when these basic needs are not there, the youth can become actors of conflict. So violent conflict among the youth usually involve a demand for the need and aspiration that have not been met. So methods and the design for this social change initiative, a field project was carried out, consultation with the community to actually know their needs. During the course of our stay in the Makerere, during the course of our training, we were made to know that anytime you go to this community to carry out any project, you must shut up and listen. So you have to go and see don't go and impose on them what you think that they need. You need to know what actually these people need. So consultation with the community to actually know their need, engagement with the relevant authorities. For instance, have to engage the Ministry of Education and several other bodies. I need to get permission to go into this project. So Ministry of Education, Secondary School Education Board also play critical role in this. So inclusive participation, engage with the management of the school and the teacher, the PTA staff, and the student forum. All of them have to be carried on board, because whenever you are doing project, peace is not, somebody said it yesterday, that peace is not what you give to people. Peace is what you make people to achieve. They have to work it out. You don't just give it to them. So you have to be inclusive participation. Involve all the relevant stakeholders and Rotary clubs for support. So young learners from a public school in a federal capital territory of Nigeria, these are the targets. The students of these schools are comprised of children from different socio-cultural backgrounds. Some of them are housemates, many are living with their guardians, and several from dysfunctional families and very poor parents. You can imagine the kind of audience that I have. Children from dysfunctional homes, housemates, living with guardians, or some of them struggling to pay their own school fees, secondary school. You can imagine. So, and you can imagine students in this kind of situation, they can easily be lured into crimes. They can easily be, because of there is a discrimination between this set of students and the student in a private school. You see students in a private school where their parent has all the money to provide everything for them, but these are the students that are being discriminated. Their needs are not met. They are struggling to survive. They are living in a very critical and very hard condition. These are the ones that can easily become agents of, actors of conflict. So I have to go to this school to carry out this initiative, to make them to know that they can become whatever they intend to they become, whatever dream they have, they can achieve. There are people that have passed through their situation and have become greater in life. To make them to know that no, they don't need to see each other as enemy. They need to have right perception about life, right perception about each other, and also to have the dream that they can attain greatest in life. So that's why I selected this. This is the school. This is one of the girls in the school. She's actually reading positive. You look at that script picture very well. You see she was reading positive peace, the 8 pillars of peace. She was reading it out because they are being trained. You understand? So she was reading it to the other fellow student. Change initiative. What are the initiative interventions that was carried out in the course of this social change initiative? There were 9 sections of interactive engagement and training. You know, we had 9 sessions, total number of 9 sessions. The facilitator used the first day to introduce and discuss some of the content and expectation of the training. A pre-training survey was also carried out to know the level of knowledge of the student about the terms conflict prevention, conflict analysis, peace building. So a pre-training survey was carried out. According to the survey, only few of them had little knowledge of some of these terms. The students also showed great expectation concerning the program. They were very fascinated by the SCI because it is different from their usual academic curriculum, and yet it has great impact. So they were very excited about it. The Social Change Initiative commenced on the 10th of September 2021, and I was allocated between the hour of 1 to 2 p.m. every Thursday by the school management for the program, because that's their normal club time. So the school gave me 1 to 2 every Thursday to come and train the students and mentor them on peace building. So 2 of the teaching staff were also recruited. They were also engaged to be part of the training session. The demography of the students cut across senior secondary school, from senior secondary school 1 to 3. The system in Nigeria is different from the system in Uganda, but I hope you understand it. The age range was between the age of 12 to 18 years old. You can see my focus was on young people, teenagers between the age of 12 to 18 years old. The training modules include some of the following: violence prevention, conflict analysis, peace building, gender-based violence, and capacity building. The last session was a close-up event, and during the last section, Peace Ambassador Club was established. Peace Ambassador Club was established for the school and handed over to the management of the school. And it is not it's still a work in progress, because from time to time, I intend to be going to the school to monitor the progress, to interact with the student, and more so, if there are funding, as I said before, if there are funding, this can also be the foundation that has been laid through this SCI can be leveraged on to build something better and bigger, and also to expand to other schools. As I said before, this is intended to be a pilot project, and I pray that we'll be able to get support and funding. There is a discussion going on with the UNICEF in Abuja, and also with Christian Aid. These are international organizations. I pray they come on board. They are still studying the SCI, and if they be able to come on board, we hope to expand and take it to other schools. You can imagine if all our schools can have peace education, if all our schools can have knowledge of how to prevent conflict resolution, peace building, we'll be able to raise a generation of young people that are conscious of peace and be able to build a better society. These are some of the pictures when I was taking them. These are some of the group also. The key findings and recommendations. Number 1, peace work with young people affected by violent conflict is essential. It is very essential to carry out peace work among the young people. And it is achievable and must be youth-driven and youth-informed. Mainstreaming and targeting approaches to supporting youth that account for age, gender, and other differences are critical to meeting the needs and aspirations of youth. All our projects need to focus there is a need to mainstream it, to focus on the youth so that we can also meet the need of the youth. There are challenges in bridging, another finding is that there are challenges in bridging the gap between policy and practice. Yesterday, one of the coordinators was talking about the gap between policy and practice. This project has actually, show that there are a lot of challenges in bridging the policy and practice. I told you earlier on when I talk about some of the policy framework, the policy framework, I didn't talk about it, Resolution 2250, which is United Nations policy framework that youth, let me read it, potential for youth to contribute to peacemaking and peace building was recognized with the adoption of Resolution 2250 by the United Nations Security Council in 2015. Also, as one of the 5 pillars of youth, it is very critical that youth should be engaged in peace building and peacemaking. But these are the policies. But in bridging the gap between the policy and practice, there are a lot of challenges. You discover many of the youth are being neglected, and their potentials are not harnessed, and we are not benefiting from their unique skill. So violent conflict can be avoided or transformed through constructive engagement. If you engage them, if you engage the people, they will be able to reason right. You can change their perception, you can change their orientation, you can disabuse their mind, and to be positive thinking and to be peaceful thinking, and you'll be able to have peaceful society. So it can be achieved through constructive engagement. Proper orientation, awareness, and enlightenment through different forms of education are essential ingredients for peace building process. These are some of the students again, cross-section of the participants. This is also the cross-section of the participants. This is a testimony from the school after the project. The principal wrote this letter. A letter of appreciation is a form of testimony. I can't read it because it's so tiny here. So, the summary is that they appreciated the effort, they appreciated the project, they appreciated it in the sense that they can see changes in the life of the student. The principal, the school management came out that they can see within a short period of time, they can see changes in the life of the student. They behave more better now than before. And they are also performing better academically more than before. That this is a great, fit for them. And they also appreciate it. They appreciate the Rotary International. So this is the project that I just finished. Youth for Peace Mentorship by Olushina Ajao. I hope that this will just be the beginning. I'm still looking forward to get more funding so that the project can be expanded to more schools and probably to the entire Africa. Thank you.
Another round of applause for our 3 presenters. Thank you. Thank you very much. Olushina and the rest have talked about something that we in the humanities research suffer with, whether we will get funding or not. That's becoming a more political thing for us. I'd like to recognize the presence of our Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Finance and Administration, Professor Henry Alinitwe. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof. Thank you. Thank you very much. I was talking about funding and yes, I've been reminded my boss is here, so I think we need to talk a lot more about these things. But I think we in the humanities really struggle a lot when it comes to funding, and there is of course a lot more. These people are doing things, and I do a lot of research, especially in schools, regarding performance. I deal though with very contested things, not peace. People who know my work know I am a really terrible researcher sometimes, but thank you very much. And thanks Nobantu, thanks my brother Sunny, who finally I realized goes to church. We're going to give questions 10 minutes, and then we'll invite our Deputy Vice Chancellor. I'll ask our Executive Director of the Center to come and, invite our Deputy Vice Chancellor. Now, I have a few questions here, and these are conversations that can definitely continue way after here, so we do not really need to stop the conversations here. My discipline of literature deals a lot with speaking and talking to people, so all our answers are gotten from talking to people, not from sitting behind a computer to get answers. Many of the things that came in here really show a lot of gratitude for what was presented right from the morning up to now. Thomas, correct information leaked by wrong persons is also malinformation. Is that right or wrong? Thomas, I saw Thomas. Yes, Thomas is somewhere. In Gatumba, we look alike. We have the same problems. We have to keep women as one to reduce. Okay, that's a comment. From Joseph, what's going to be done to increase trainings and sensitization of mainly our LC1 leaders, and why are such programs not included in the budgeting processes? Whoa, okay. Of lower local governments to bridge the finance. Now the trouble is I don't know to whom these questions are addressed. That's why I'm having a bit of issues. Kindly elaborate on the impacts. For example, how has the social change initiative been able to create a balance between promoting media freedom and tackling, this should be for Thomas, balance between promoting media freedom and tackling malicious information? Are there concrete steps to engage such communities who have failed to change even with the most legal frameworks to address it? Great thanks go to the hosts and all the representatives. As a student of Makerere, I do think this is a great ideal to all people, especially women, but I think these initiatives are not available within our university. This is interesting. How can we be helped to ensure that these great ideals are also made available among students? I now do not know what these ideals are, sadly.
Mariana we anerian, Mariana we anerian, Mariana we anerian, Mariana we anerian, Riana we, Mariana we anerian, Mariana we aneria, Yenda ya mukai kurumpo mururo, ye bojo twara matagange, bojo twara matagange, ye bojo twara matagange. Indaya we mokai kurumpo mururo, twara mataga, erabu twara matagange. usaure moyo kaneria mwaria nawe 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 mwaria nawe yaneria 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 nari yenda yawe mukaye kurumpo mururo Yevo jotwara matagange Jotwara matagange Yenda yawe mukaye kurumpo mururo.
Is your name Sitole? Yes, I have a microphone here, sir. Correct information leaked by wrong people is also malinformation, right or wrong?
If that correct information is leaked in such a way that the intention is to damage the reputation of someone. I'll give an example of, say, during an election, maybe damaging information about one of the contestants is leaked as a way of damaging or causing reputational damage or to discredit a contesting candidate. That information could be true. It also involves releasing information without someone's consent. The revenge porn has been a very popular way through which violations against people's privacy.
Recording in progress.
Information is correct. That could be someone's nudes, but did you seek their consent? What is the intent behind? The intent is to damage someone's reputation or to injure someone's integrity. So the intent is to cause damage, reputational damage. But the information is true. It's not fake. But did you get their consent? If you didn't get their consent, what is your intention? I don't know if that is clear.
Dr. Salim should be somewhere. Yes.
For example, if you part ways with your partner and you leak their notes or the video that you did together, the intention there is to damage your partner's reputation. Is it not so?
No, here is the question, please. I have a correct information. Mr. Thomas, here I am.
Okay. Wait,
The
right?
information
Yes.
is correct.
Yes.
You met me at Mengo Youth. Remember? We walked you through the slum. Just for information. But what I'm telling you now, I have an information. For example, a reputable person in the government has passed away. And then the government doesn't want to leave the information. Yet I have a correct information that he has passed away. Then I leak the information. Then the government says, no, that's a propaganda. A day later, it comes to be true. So, is it mal information?
Okay, my
intention is not to damage, is to give the information. You mismanage the information on your part, and I got leak of it, and I gave it out. Does it become a malinformation in that case?
Well, in that regard, the intention is not to cause any harm. You are releasing information, probably you might not be the right person to release it.
Correct.
In the eyes of the government.
Yes.
Maybe they want to release it after doing some verification. It happens a lot.
Right.
And that the information is leaked, you hear a government official denying, or a government department denying.
Now, who is giving my information?
Then it turns out that it was true. Yes. But if you look at what happens mostly, that's why today there is so much, I would say, panic within the gatekeepers that used to ensure information was released at the right time in court. But like I said during the presentation, that each and every one of us here is a potential journalist. You can share information that could be useful to society. But we can also share information, correct information, that probably could create panic and chaos if it's not released at the right time. But that information is not fake news. That information is correct. But sometimes governments would want to probably prepare citizens so that when they release that information, it's not going to create confusion, it's not going to cause chaos or panic.
Understandable. Now, what is that communication? Is it misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation? On my part, who has released it?
Now, in this case, it's correct information released by the wrong person at the wrong time. But it's correct information.
So it's none of the three?
I wouldn't say it's misinformation, because misinformation, usually the information is wrong, released without the intention to cause chaos.
So this gives me the chance maybe to remind you that in your presentation, I think you did not give details to mismanagement of information. On some people's, you mismanage information on your part, and then it goes on to the public, and then you start blaming the public in that respect. Maybe you'll give it more.
No, thank you for that. But of course, the scope is huge. It's only that I focused on the three aspects of information disorder.
Okay.
That is misinformation,
in the interest of
disinformation,
time, I rest my case.
But my colleague also wants to weigh in.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut this short. Helen, I would like to invite you up here. This is going to continue. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I take the honor to introduce Professor Alinaitwe, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Finance and Administration, to come and give his remarks, as well as I will hand over certificates to the fellows. You're welcome, sir. And fellows, just get ready to be dressed. If you can see the left side of my dressing, you'll soon be dressed by the different dignitaries in this room. So DVC will give his remarks. You can go back and sit, we shall call you, and then certificates will be awarded.
Okay, thank you very much, my colleague, Dr. Nkabala. First of all, for inviting me. The Vice Chancellor would have loved to be here himself, but he's away. He's on official trip to Nairobi. So he has asked me to come in and step in for him. So in terms of protocol, the High Commission, of course, has gone, but has been here with us. The High Commission of Nigeria to Uganda, the Honorary Consul General of Liberia to Uganda, but also who is one of us, Dr. Wall. Glad to know. And I was remembering Dr. Wall, the way the great man he was. The Rotarians here, and I believe I'm informed who are also supporters of this program, great supporters of this program. The faculty members, Dr. Nkawal, of course, I've seen many others, and organizers, the participants, the fellows, the peace fellows from the different countries. I'm informed that there are 54 fellows from 27 African countries. I think that's a very great achievement for us at Makerere University. You know, Makerere University takes pride in being one of the best universities in Africa. And one of the reasons why we're among the best universities is because of the intensity of research that we do. Makerere is highly ranked, very highly ranked in terms of research. Makerere is also highly ranked in terms of internationalization. We want to look at ourselves as an international university. And indeed we're international. As you can see, if 27 countries are represented only on this program, what about if you look at the global picture? So we take pride in that. But also Makerere University is very good at teaching and of course learning. And along the years we've had good achievements. We all know that we've groomed a number of leaders, a number of international scholars, and we are happy to celebrate in that. Maybe also to remind you that I think I saw it somewhere here, that Makerere University is celebrating 100 years. This year, that's 2022, Makerere was started in 1922, largely as a technical college, but now it's offering a wide range of programs and initiatives. So mine was to represent the Vice Chancellor and indeed the university, and to say that we are very happy for this initiative. The few minutes I've been here, I've had, of course, discussions and talks about conflicts and peace. And maybe my contribution or my reminder to the meeting is that conflicts are biblical. When you look at the first few chapters in the Bible, conflicts are already there. You know, so they are biblical, and up to now they're there. Someone was talking about the issue of Russia versus Ukraine. That's just one of the few conflicts. Maybe the latest conflict, major conflict we've had. But along the way, we've had very many others. And people are even saying we might even have a third world war soon. But I also want to say that from my perspective, conflict and peace are also largely about perception. You know, they are largely about perception. Even when someone does not hate you, if you think that that person hates you, then you're already in conflict. The issues are very clear. I mean, if you look at, say, Russia, let me use the example of USA and Libya and you know, those of the Arab world, where they were saying that they had, you know, weapons of mass destruction. They bombed the places, they searched, but they ended up not finding any. So wasn't it largely about perception, about their view, thinking that those people had the weapons? So I think the issue of communication also comes in. It's very, very important. But also, how do you communicate? How do you exchange information? I also want to say that this region has quite a big number of refugees. Uganda is renowned, or is well known for hosting quite a big number of refugees in Africa. I think we could be the host, the biggest host in terms of refugees. I think that's not something to be proud about, because you know that those refugees are generally unhappy people. They have been displaced, they have lost their pride and livelihood. So they are not comfortable. And here you are hosting this big number of people who are not comfortable. The same thing is happening in Europe now. Like Poland. Poland is now a host to quite a number of refugees. They are using resources, they are inconvenienced, they are largely stagnant, they are not developing. So we cannot celebrate where there is conflict. So we need to work towards peace. Conflicts are multi-causal, and as I've already said, they are everywhere. So we want to thank so much the people who are participating in this program, that here we are preaching peace and forging ways in which we can build peace blocks so the whole world can be peaceful. But as I've said earlier, it will be an uphill task for us to get the entire world peaceful. Because the problem with peace and the conflict is that even when the people are peaceful and are happy, some others are not happy. So when people see you happy, laughing and whatever, some people are not happy because you are happy. So that's the irony about building peace and avoiding conflict. So I want to thank, on behalf of the university, I want to thank the Rotary Peace Center. I want to thank the Rotary International. Of course, I also want to thank the Rotary clubs in Uganda that have largely supported this initiative. And I'm glad to say that I've used this opportunity also to connect with a few friends. You know, at times when you go somewhere, you don't expect friends. Now I see my old friend, Mr. Masade. We were together some time back, long time ago, more than 30 years ago. So this was like a reunion. So I want to thank all of you for participating, and I want to congratulate the fellows who are being awarded the postgraduate diploma in peace building and conflict transformation, of course, hosted here at Makerere University. As we build for the future, I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Alina Itwe. We are always honored to work with you. I was going to say under you, but I don't know how it will be interpreted. I would like to call the mentors in the room and academic staff to join Professor Alina Itwe and our dear Rotarians to help him give out the certificates to the fellows as well as dress them. So I would like to call Honorable Councillor of Liberia to join our DVC. We shall give you a mic to say a word or two, just to greet the audience, and then join him to give out the certificates. DGND Ankutu, Rotarian Fred Masade, Dr. Veni Mbabazi, Dr. Charlotte Karunji. Please join the DVC as fast as we can. Dr. William Tayebwa, mentor. Dr. Lwerekera, please join the DVC. Dr. Isaac Tibasima, Dr. Dixon, Rotarian Lillian Mwanda, and Dr. Elizabeth Nansubuga. I would also like to call our dear administrator, who will be receiving the certificates on behalf of those that have not managed to come to us physically. This is not yet the end, but because the DVC is going away, we would like the DVC to hand these over to you, because by the time we get you up on this stage to present at this time, you have passed. If you didn't pass, we wouldn't have invited you. So it is for that reason that we are giving certificates, but we shall continue with the last presentations, definitely not the least. In this order, thank you so much, academic staff, for joining in. I would like to invite Ronald Kasule. The order will be, as he receives his certificate, he will be badged by the Rotary Peace Fellow Badge from DNDG, and he will also receive the Makerere at 100 to remind you that we are celebrating 100 years, as well as a badge from Makerere University Peace Center. As Ronald is getting dressed up, I would request Taylor Nobantu to draw closer. As Taylor is getting closer to the Honorable Consular of the Consulate of Liberia to receive her certificate, I would like to invite Patience Rusare to draw closer to Rotarian Animal. Catherine Baine Omjisha, please draw closer. Dear fellows, remember I told you this is a certificate of completion. We shall be getting our transcripts once you have been accepted into the Makerere University convocation. Miss Amina Osame Abdi, you're welcome. Draw closer, Amina. Amina. I'm sure our fellows of cohort 2 are very excited and looking on. I can see Edmond Kopsua all the way from Sierra Leone. He's online. Can we have Paul Mushaho getting closer? Paul Mushaho. Paul Mushaho will be followed by Pinky. Paul Mushaho will be followed by Pinky. Pinky. Pinky, you're very welcome. Pinky is our next presenter. Please draw closer to the DVC and receive your certificate. Please keep safely those badges as you take them, and every function you're called to, remind them that the Rotary Peace Center sends them peace. Thank you so much, Pinky. Now let's have Fikiri Zoisenga drawing closer as Soni Dada and Olushina get ready. Fikiri Zoisenga, all the way from Burundi. I wish we had some Burundi drums. Burundi. Fikiri Zoisenga, you have a special drumming from Burundi just for you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. We are honored to have you with us. I sincerely know what that means to Fikiri. Olushina, draw closer. Olushina Ajao from Nigeria. Draw closer. Oh! Soni, come here. There is a reason why you're coming last. Olushina. You can see Olushina's mentor drawing closer. Let's dress Olushina in Makata 100, the Peace Fellow badge, as well as Makerere University Peace Center. And finally, for those present, let's have some Nigerian drums go off for Soni Dada. You can all clearly see why I pushed him back, so that he tells them which kind of drumming he wants. Oh, okay. Someone told me we are off to Zululand. For those in the room, welcome with me, Sithole Thomas. Sithole was mentored and nurtured by Rotarian Fred Masade and Dr. William Tayewa. This afternoon, friends, we shall be listening to Pinky, definitely, but we shall also be listening to Rose Carl, all the way from UK, She was not able to join us physically, but she'll be with us. And Jumonde, who I informed you that got involved in an accident, but he's getting better. So I have the honor to hand these over to DVC, who will hand these certificates over. Also, Peter Powell's certificate is here. He presented online. And these will be handed over to the center administrator, who definitely has the role of transporting these and ensuring that they reach the fellows. So for Peter Powell, for Jumonde, for Rose Carl, Elena, and Stephen Sempande. We shall also hand over their badges to the center administrator, who will definitely make sure that they are delivered. So thank you so much, our dear DVC, and thank you so much, Honorable Councillor. We are very honored to have you. Allow me hand over this mic to you, just to greet the people present and the team.
Thank you very much. The director, Dr. Nkabala, and the Vice Chancellor, the heads of Rotarians that are here. Let me say how honored I am to have been invited to this ceremony. And I would like to congratulate the university for the honor of having this course here. I would also like to congratulate the Rotarians for supporting this initiative. Especially, I would like to congratulate the participants who have done an immense job of doing the research, being on the ground, and promoting the idea of peace. Madam Director, you asked me to just greet, but you know, I have to say I have a few things to say. And I want to say that I'm honored for Liberia because of the special position that Liberia holds in terms of peace in Africa. You know that we have 2 Liberian women who are recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. And this was for the work that the women of Liberia did to bring an end to a very gruesome war. And you heard Madam Taylor talk about the help, the work she did at the cross-border. And you might not know that the women from Sierra Leone and the women from Guinea are the ones who supported the women of Liberia to get their presidents to come together and talk peace. So that was the work of the women. I also would like to say that I observed in the presentations the recognition of the cross-sectionality of the issues pertaining to peace. We talked about the journalists, we talked about the cross-border traders, and I want you to know that I took market women, you call them women traders, I took them to the AU. And when they went to the AU and spoke, the people on the Peace Commission in the AU were chasing them because they said, we did not know that market women, women vendors, have such a strategic role to play in bringing peace in Africa. So I would like to tell you, Madam Director, that there is a group of women in Africa who work on the issue of peace. We were the first to get the African Union to appoint a woman as a special envoy for peace and security in Africa. And her work has promoted most of what you see in Africa doing the 1325 work, the NAPS. I don't know if you know about these things, but I would like to be able to come and give presentations at your center. And I promise you I will do them totally free of charge. There is so much. I'm going to invite you to come to the meetings we have at the AU. We meet at the AU every time. Before the AU meet, we meet. And we tell the heads of states what we want them to talk about. Yes. And I have to say that all of those men, because you know AU is a male club, until Ellen Johnson got there, we didn't have a woman there. So we have had to find a way to make our voices heard without being at the table. And we have succeeded in doing that. And because of that, we've had several policies that have been passed at the AU. So I heard the Nigerians talk about voices and making voices strong. That's the work we do. And we would be glad to join you. We now have a large population of youth that we invite, and they come and they participate. So, and we are also working on the issue of positive masculinity. Yes, this is I heard it first from Makerere. And this is going to be the new thing. A meeting was held in DRC with heads of states to talk about positive masculinity. We're going to be promoting this idea in Africa. So there's so much more I could tell you, but when you invite me to give my lectures, I will tell you about it. So thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you, to the department, to Makerere. Makerere was the first place I put my feet on in Uganda. Yes. I was brought to Uganda in 1965 by Honorable Igre Awori as his wife. And we lived in Makerere, somewhere down there near the law school. At that time, it was the African Trade and Labor Organization. So we lived in one of those houses. Then I got a job at Makerere. My first job in Uganda was at Makerere. So I'm very, very much related to Makerere and very passionate about anything that happens at Makerere. And if you need my help for anything, please feel free to call on me. I'm at your service. And we have had very good relationships. Liberia has very good relationships with Makerere and with Uganda. Many students have come here at your Center for Economic Capacity Building, for Reform, and now I see here in a medical school. So, you know, we are together. That's what I'd like to say. Thank you very much.
There is absolutely no better time for Makerere to celebrate 100 years than now. I'll hand over this to my VC.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just symbolically to put also our symbol on her so that she can keep remembering Makerere University.
Makerere at 100. There's another one.
Friends, join me in thanking the team. And Honorable, allow me assure you that before Makerere climaxes the 100 years celebration, I will visit the office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Finance and Administration, and the Rotary Peace Center will invite you back for a special talk just on women and peace building. So thank you very much. Please, I take the honor to invite you to lunch. And dear fellows, I will request all of you to stand here with your certificates and give us that picture. I would like to congratulate you. I called them our COVID team. You were so amiable. They were our guinea pigs, but they made it easy for us. Thank you for making the center stand. We are very proud of you. And indeed, more certificates are coming, as we assured you. It will be very good for the audience to know that the fellows also have another certificate in their bag. They are called Peace Ambassadors by the Institute of Economics and Peace. So it is such a rich course. Fellows, feel free to pose with your mentors. Anyone who wishes to go to lunch, feel free. Prof.